Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and remain standing for the national anthem. Parade the colors.
Prepare to post the colors. Post. Face. Present. Arms.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Order. Arms. Face. Forward. March.
Will the guests please be seated? Good morning, and thank you for attending today's ceremony. It is my pleasure to introduce Wichita Vice Mayor Jeff Blubaugh.
Thank you. And on behalf of the mayor, the city council, and the city manager, I also want to add to my welcome to this ceremony with our distinguished guest of honor today, Kansas Governor Sam Brownback, the Deputy State Director for the U.S. Senator Jerry Moran, Mike Zammerzella, on behalf of U.S. Congressman Mike Pompeo, his lovely wife Susan Pompeo, Colonel Hester, retired JROTC commander, the commander of the 22nd Air Refueling Wing, McConnell Air Force Base, Colonel Albert Miller, accompanied by Colonel Larson and Colonel Weisar, Captain Charles Ross, Bravo Company, commander and recruiting retention command of the U.S. Army National Guard, State Senators O'Donnell and Faust-Godot, and my distinguished colleagues of the Wichita City Council, Levanta Williams, Pete Meitzner, and Janet Miller. And to save time, we would like other city, county, and state elected officials to please stand and be recognized. Thank you, and we're honored to have you here today. And of course, I would like to acknowledge our servicemen and women, young and old, enlisted and retired, who have taken the time to be here for this occasion. All who are serving or have served in the armed forces, please stand. Let's give them a big round of applause. What an exciting and historic moment for Wichita to host the United States Secretary of the Navy. Our landlocked state will never have a seaport, but our city does have a history with the Navy. It began in the 1930s when a ship christened the USS Wichita was commissioned into the U.S. Navy in February of 1939. Our distinguished guest today will bring us to date and tell you more about this special event in a few moments. He is the 75th United States Secretary of the Navy, the longest to serve as leader of the Navy and Marine Corps since World War II, the Honorable Ray Mabus. He is a man with a long and distinguished record. Prior to his current appointment of the Secretary of the Navy, he held a variety of leadership positions in the public and private sector. From 1988 to 1992, he served as governor of Mississippi, the youngest elected to the office in more than 150 years. He then served as ambassador to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia from 1994 to 1996. Later, he was chairman and CEO of a manufacturing company which was led out of bankruptcy. He is responsible for an annual budget north of $170 billion and the leadership of almost 900,000 people. Secretary Ray Mabus has worked to improve the quality of life of sailors, Marines, and their families, decrease the department's dependence on fossil fuels, strengthen partnerships with industry and internationally, and increase the size of the Navy fleet. During his tenure, the Navy went from building fewer than 5 ships per year to having more than 70 ships under contract, the average of 14 ships per year to be put under contract. He leads the world's only global Navy and has traveled more than 1 million miles, including over 140 countries and territories and 43 states to visit with sailors and Marines forward deployed and stationed around the world. The ongoing duties and goals that Secretary Mabus has maintained are to cultivate and develop international relationships and reconnect the American public with the Navy and Marine Corps, which he calls America's away team. He has traveled to Afghanistan on 12 separate occasions in recognition of the sacrifice and service of sailors and Marines deployed in combat zones. Secretary Mabus is a native of Ackerman, Mississippi, and received his bachelor's degree from the University of Mississippi, a master's degree from Johns Hopkins University, and a law degree from Harvard Law School. After Johns Hopkins, Mabus served in the Navy as an officer aboard the USS Little Rock. Ladies and gentlemen of Wichita, please welcome the United States Secretary of the Navy, Ray Mabus.
Thank you all so much. Mr. Vice Mayor, thank you for welcoming me and the Navy to City Hall. Governor, I particularly want to thank you for being here. Having been a governor, I know what your schedule is like, and you honor us with your presence. Susan Pompeo, thank you for so ably representing your husband. And please also thank Senator Moran for his representation here today. And to the citizens of Wichita, Kansas, you know, it's, as Vice Mayor said, it's probably not every day that the Secretary of the Navy comes to Kansas. And it's not the first thing people think of when they think of Kansas. I mean, you think of a lot of wonderful things, but being a part of the Navy may not be right at the top of your list. But let me talk about the Navy and the Marine Corps just for a second, and then come back around to why we're here. What the Navy and Marine Corps uniquely give America is presence. around the globe, around the clock, being in the right place, not just at the right time, but all the time. We give our leaders options in times of crisis. We get on station faster, we stay longer, we take everything we need with us, and we don't have to ask anybody's permission to get the job done. I'll give you an example of that last one. When the decision was made to strike ISIS, we had a carrier launching strikes within 30 hours. And for 54 days, we were the only strike option. And it wasn't because we didn't have other aircraft in the region, because we did. It was because the countries where those aircraft were would not allow us to take off armed for strike. We could take off from the George H.W. Bush because it's sovereign American territory. So our ability to provide that presence is built on 4 fundamentals: people, our sailors and Marines; platforms, the ships and aircraft, weapon systems; power, how we fuel those platforms; and partnerships, our strong relationships, as the Vice Mayor said, with industry, with our international partners, and with the American people. And that last one, the partnership with the American people, is really why I'm here today. Your role in this partnership is so powerful in the success of the Navy and Marine Corps. And it's so crucial to have that relationship because, as the Vice Mayor said, I do call the Navy and Marine Corps America's away team. We never have a home game. When we are doing our job, we're usually a long, long way from home. And it's making the connection between the very small number of Americans who serve in uniform, and particularly those who are forward deployed, with the people that they stand the watch for, the people that they protect, that we are able to have events like this. So here, a good ways from the ocean, the shipbuilding and repair industry contributes $126 million annually to Kansas's GDP. And that connects you in a very tangible way to those sailors and Marines around the world. And since the founding of our country, since the beginning of this office in 1798, my 74 predecessors and I have tried to honor this strong partnership by naming ships after cities and states as a reflection not just of our heritage, but also as an expression of gratitude to you for the support that you've given not only our sailors and Marines, but also our veterans, the 233,000 veterans that call Kansas home. And it's in recognition of that support. It's in recognition of the people from Wichita, the people from Kansas who have raised their hand and volunteered and said, send me, that we are here today. That special relationship began, as the Vice Mayor said, more than 75 years ago when a cruiser, USS Wichita, was commissioned. She was a pretty unique blend. New Orleans class heavy cruiser with all the company and armament and weaponry, but built on a better hull from the Brooklyn class light cruiser that saw extensive combat experience in World War II. USS Wichita was assigned to the Atlantic first, supported the amphibious landings in Africa under Operation Torch in November of 1942 before she went to the Pacific. There she did anti-aircraft defense in the Battle of the Philippine Sea, Battle of Leyte Gulf, as well as providing fire support for our troops, Marines and Army, as they went ashore in Okinawa. That ship earned a total of 13 battle stars in World War II. The second USS Wichita was a replenishment ship, AOR-1, commissioned in 1969, and her mission was critical during Vietnam. She provided other ships with the fuel and the ammunition they needed to continue their mission. She made regular deployments to the 7th Fleet area of operation, supporting our ships off the coast during that war. Even as an oiler, the second USS Wichita earned 4 battle stars during Vietnam. So the ships that have been named for Wichita have an incredible legacy, and one which this city, this country, and our Navy is incredibly proud of. And the reason I take you back through history is that the newest type of ship that we have, most cutting-edge technology, is a littoral combat ship that is becoming, and we're renaming it, the fast frigate. It's an innovative ship. It's very big, it's very shallow draft, very fast, and it's modular. So as technology changes, you pull one weapon system off and you put another one on without having to build a new ship. The first 4 LCSs were contracted for before 2009, and they cost an average of $548 million. We've got 19 more now under contract, and we've gotten the cost to $337 million, so that we can afford to buy the 52 of these ships that we're going to need and that we're going to build. And these ships represent an example of how we've halted and reversed the slide in the size of our fleet. On 9/11/2001, we had 316 ships in the U.S. Navy. By 2008, after one of the great military buildups in our history, we were down to 278 ships. As the Vice Mayor pointed out, in the 5 years before I took office, the Navy put 27 ships under contract. Not enough to keep our fleet from getting smaller, and not enough to keep our shipyards in business. In my first 5 years, we have put 70 ships under contract with a smaller top line. And we're going to continue to grow our fleet so that by the end of this decade, we'll be at 306 ships, enough to meet every mission that this country gives us. And we're able to do that because of the support of Congress, who have been remarkably supportive of our shipbuilding program, and the American people, the people being protected by this great fleet. Now, these ships and this ship will be in the fleet for decades. There will be sailors on this ship that are not born yet. This ship will go into every ocean of the world, from the Caribbean to the archipelagos of the Pacific, working with our partners, deterring our adversaries, and providing that presence. And because of the littoral combat ship's ability to go into shallow waters that other warships cannot get into, this is often the only ship and the only Americans that a lot of foreigners will ever see. She'll sail the world, defending the American people and representing the values of Wichita, the values of Kansas, the values of America around the world. So, today, I'm honored to continue the legacy and announce the name of our newest littoral combat ship, LCS-13, USS Wichita.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Ladies and gentlemen, Governor Sam Brownback.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being here. You're right, we don't get to see the Secretary of the Navy often. Secretary of the Army regularly, and Air Force we get to see a lot of. We built a lot of those planes here, but this is a bit unusual for us. Welcome, delighted to have you here, and delighted to see this taking place. This is a fantastic day, and it's a fantastic mission that this ship will be doing, and thank you for the job you're doing as Secretary of Navy in keeping our shores safe and projecting the power of the United States of America. As you've already heard, this is the third time for the city of Wichita to have a ship named after it. Those previous two in World War II, Vietnam, saw noble service, served the country, served the world well. Today, the new USS Wichita, currently under construction, will face new battles. Its capabilities reflect the changing nature and the new challenges that we face as a society and the world faces. This class of ships also represents the vision of Secretary Mabus and the Navy to lead sea power in this century. These ships can protect, defend, and deter, but also can provide humanitarian support and emergency search and rescue missions. They will be fast, agile, capable. When she is complete, the USS Wichita will carry on the proud tradition of her predecessors in defending America throughout the world. I'm honored to be here today to be a part of this. And I would just say as a postscript, to me, I like to think that the naming of these ships, when you name a ship, it carries and projects some of the character of the name and the place that it's named after. Wichita is a place of courage and heart and faith, of hardworking Americans who love their families, who love their country, and believe God has blessed America. And they believe that to whom much is given, much is required. May this ship be a blessing to friend and a terror to foe. And may she serve well and honorably. May God bless the USS Wichita.
Thank you, Mr. Governor, and thank you all for attending today's ceremony. This concludes our event.